Hello and welcome to another edition of Cyber Threat Thursday. I'm Kristin Judge, the CEO and founder of the Cybercrime Support Network, and I'm so excited to be here with one of our great national partners, AARP, and Liz Buser is here to talk to us a little bit about all the fantastic resources they have. Liz, would you start just by introducing yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit more about AARP Fraud Watch Network?
Sure. Thank you, Kristin. I'm so happy to be here with you today. So, as Kristin said, my name is Liz Buser. I'm an advisor on the Fraud Prevention Programs team here at AARP. I've worked at AARP. It'll be 10 years this year, and I've focused on fraud prevention in some capacity during that entire time. And fraud is also an issue area that AARP has focused on since our founding. So I'm here representing the AARP Fraud Watch Network, and it's a free resource for all. You don't have to be a member or of a certain age in order to access our content. It's free for everyone. And so we equip consumers with up-to-date knowledge on how to spot and avoid scams, and we connect those who are targeted by scams with our fraud helpline specialists, who then provide support and guidance on what to do next. We also advocate at the federal, state, and local levels to enact policy changes that protect consumers and enforce laws. And so what I wanted to share is, there's many free resources we offer to consumers. One of them is the AARP Fraud Watch Network website, which is aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. And it's a page where consumers can access news, tips, and videos on how to spot and avoid common scams. We also have other AARP resources there as well. One of them is the AARP Fraud Watch Network Scam Tracking Map, and it's a key resource. It allows people from across the country to report scams that they have spotted or that they or a loved one may have fallen victim to. And it's also a place people can go to see what new scams may be happening in their local area. We also offer bi-weekly watchdog alerts, both by email and text. I believe we're going to post the link on your screen, but you can also text FWN to 50757 to sign up for those. We also have a weekly podcast, which is called The Perfect Scam. It profiles America's biggest scam stories. We share personal stories from scam victims and their families. We have interviews with professional con artists and leading fraud prevention experts, and they shed light on how scammers operate. And they also share tips with listeners on how best to protect themselves. And then I'm so proud of our incredible Fraud Resource Center, which is located on our website. We have more than 80 tip sheets that focus on common scams like natural disaster scams, coronavirus scams, imposter scams, illegal robocalls, just to name a few. And most excitedly, our resources are also available in Spanish, and that website is aarp.org/fraude. And I just wanted to mention too, we have a presence on Facebook where we're hosting live video discussions like the one we're doing with you today, Kristin. There we talk about the latest scams impacting everyone. We're also on Twitter, where we often participate in Twitter chats. And on both platforms, we share the most up-to-date information on scams that are impacting consumers. So on Facebook, you can go to AARP Fraud Watch Network. And on Twitter, just search for AARP Fraud Watch. And one last thing I wanted to mention too, we offer fraud prevention webinars and telephone town hall conversations, regular content in both AARP, the magazine, and the AARP Bulletin. We do original research, and then we create resources that are distributed by our 53 state offices, most of whom focus on fraud prevention efforts. The bottom line, we know that the work all of us are doing, both at AARP and with CSN and other organizations, because scammers steal billions of dollars each year. Everyone, not just older adults, is a potential target. And studies have found if you know about a specific scam, you're 80% less likely to engage in it. And if you do engage, you're 40% less likely to fall victim. So we like to say, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. And so that's what we hope to do.
Well, and if anybody had ever felt like this was a topic that they were never going to be able to handle on their own and there were no great resources, I mean, what you've just listed, and I use your resources all the time, doesn't matter really what age you are, good cyber hygiene and good, scam savviness really is the same no matter how old you are. And so your resources are so well put together, so accessible and easy to understand. And you could just go to the website or Facebook and listen and participate. So thank you for all of what you do do. And I've also worked with some of your state offices also. They do a fantastic job and really are good community partners. So thank you for that. And I'm glad people could see the list of the URLs that we have in the chat here. Let's talk about now, we're living in a pandemic, and we've done a lot, and you've done a lot around COVID-19 scams. Can you talk about some of the latest that you're seeing that we can let the audience know and maybe even tell their friends and family about?
Absolutely. And it's hard to believe that I think it's a year ago today, right, Kristin, that
I think so.
it all started, and it continues to affect us all. And, unfortunately, scammers continue to do all that they can to take advantage of it. So there are a lot of coronavirus scams out there. So I'm going to try and touch quickly on them. Number one we're hearing about is vaccine scams. So I want to remind everyone, you cannot pay to skip the line, reserve an appointment spot, or join a clinical trial. So just be wary of inbound calls or texts that ask for your personal information, like your social security number, your financial details, or insurance information, that they would want to reserve your spot. There's also been reports of scammers impersonating local health departments and vaccine providers as well. Again, never share your personal, financial, or medical information with people you don't know. We're also hearing about vaccine for sale scams. So ignore any ads you see online that are touting vaccines for sale from an online pharmacy or elsewhere. It is not. There's also contact tracing scams. People who are genuine contact tracers won't ask for your money or for your social security number, bank account, or credit card number, and they won't ask for your immigration status as well. We're also hearing about government payment scams. So I want to stress, government agencies will not ask you for payments via cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or cryptocurrency. Another scam we're hearing about are charity scams. As we all know, any emergency or disaster leads to a spike in fraudulent charities. So make sure you do your homework before giving. Charity Navigator is a great resource. And do your homework, especially if the request arises on social media.
Yeah.
We're also hearing about peer-to-peer mobile payment scams. So please exercise caution if you're asked for a fast digital payment. For example, the Venmo app points out that it's intended for use only between friends and others they trust. And the same applies to similar apps. And then one last COVID scam I wanted to highlight is one that we've seen a surge in calls in to the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline, and those are unemployment scams. So what the fraudsters are doing is they're creating sham websites with information about unemployment benefits. And some of the phony sites mimic state workforce agency websites. And what the bad actors want to do is to capture people's personal information and commit identity theft. Fraudsters are also sending spam text messages and emails that they're claiming are from a state workforce agency. It then contains a link to lure consumers to the fake websites. And the websites are designed to trick consumers into thinking they're applying for unemployment benefits. And there you end up disclosing your date of birth, your social security number, your financial account information, and other personally identifiable information. And there's also schemes that use links that are embedded in unsolicited text messages and emails. And these are called phishing schemes, which I know we are all familiar with. So my advice to folks, never click on links in texts or emails that claim to be from anyone who's looking for your information. Avoid online offers for cures or faster access to vaccines. These are scams. Be wary of emails and calls and social media posts that advertise free or government-ordered COVID-19 tests. Do not click on links or download files from unexpected emails. And the same goes for text messages and unfamiliar websites as well. I cannot stress again, please do not share your personal information like your social security number, your Medicare and credit card information in response to an unsolicited text, email, or call. Definitely be skeptical of fundraising calls or emails for COVID-19 victims or virus research. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So engage your inner skeptic when you see ads offering in demand and hard to obtain supplies and other information. And, just be warned, links and texts and emails can download software that steals your usernames and your passwords, as well as other sensitive information. So Our website, there's a special page we have up, actually, aarp.org/COVID-19 fraud. And I think a similar link will be shared on your screen. And that's where you can find more information about all the coronavirus scams that are out there.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point, Liz, is that it's the unsolicited. If you go to your bank or you go to the state and say, I need help, or I want to engage on a financial, way, then that's probably okay, as long as you've done your due diligence and look to see where you're going is the actual place you want to go. But it's those unsolicited, when someone knocks on your door, texts you a message, sends you an email that you didn't plan on talking to. That's what I try and really reiterate with folks, is that unsolicited. Someone comes to you that you were not expecting, and then they want all kinds of information and money. Stay away. Great. So some other scams that are being reported to the AARP Fraud Watch Network Helpline. Can you share some things that are non-COVID related?
Absolutely. So I want to reinforce, if you've been targeted by scams or fraud, please know that you're not alone. The AARP Fraud Watch Network Helpline, our specialists can provide you with the free support and guidance on what you can do next. And our staff and volunteers are here to help you. So I want to repeat that phone number, which I think will also be on the screen. It's 877-908-3360. And last year, our helpline actually had more than 103,000 calls with an average call time of 22 minutes. And so, of course, we're hearing about coronavirus scams, but, a lot of the other scams we hear about are ones that are occurring year round, not at a specific time of year. So one of those is, imposter scams, which are exactly what they sound like. Crooks are posing as someone or something else to try and convince you to send them money. And it's actually the most common form of fraud that's reported to the Federal Trade Commission. And I want to say, too, that all the calls we get, all the information that folks give us by calling the helpline, we do share with the Federal Trade Commission so that they get that information. So just here's a recent example of an imposter scam that was called into from the helpline. It was actually an online romance scam. A man called. He said his best friend was involved in a scam and had basically turned into someone he no longer felt he knew. He said his friend had announced he was leaving his wife because he was in love with someone he met online. The wife is, of course, upset and has reached out to the friend to try and convince her husband of what's going on. And unfortunately, the victim has sent $90,000 and purchased a Peloton bike and a Rolex watch for his girlfriend. So that's just one example of the stories we're hearing regarding imposter scams. Also, tech support scams. Tech support scammers aim to exploit the fear that folks have about computer viruses and malware. These faux technicians in reality are just trying to steal your money or your identity, not save your computer. So tech support cons typically start in one of two ways, either an unsolicited phone call or a pop-up warning on your computer or a device. So recently we had a caller to the helpline who said they received 2 voicemails claiming to be from Apple, who had claimed that their Apple ID had been stolen. They gave the woman a phone number to call. She Googled a different number for Apple, called them, and they asked her to pay with a Target gift card, which she then purchased. And unfortunately, she also gave them her social security number, PIN number, and the last 4 digits of a credit card. One last example of what we're hearing about is puppy scams. Who doesn't love puppies? I know our puppy's sitting at my feet right now.
Yeah.
But scammers want to hook consumers with adorable photos and heart-tugging tales of, pets that are in need of forever homes. So someone actually just called the helpline. They were on Facebook looking for a dog that was for sale through Facebook. She ended up paying the person by Google Pay to make a deposit for the dog, but then they kept asking her for more money and to pay for shipping costs. But she unfortunately never received the dog. So these are just a couple examples of folks calling into the helpline. Another example I wanted to flag too is, we're always hearing about sweepstakes and lottery scams. And these are we receive hundreds of calls a day to the helpline. So if you don't mind, I just want to repeat that number. It's 877-908-3360. We're here to help you. And we also have tips on the AARP Fraud Watch Network website. Again, aarp.org/Fraudwatch Network, that can help you avoid these and dozens upon dozens of other scams that are out there.
Absolutely. And anybody who has access to their screen, you can see all that phone number and the links in the chat there. Thank you, Demetria, for keeping up with our conversation here. Now I want to switch gears a little bit to one of our other partners, and now one of our sponsors is the Finra Foundation. Did some incredibly important work with you all, because we believe at CSN that we're going to be stopping repeat victimization. We want to stop that re-victimization because we know that many times that's when people are losing, their entire retirement, or a lot more of their funds, or their ability to take care of themselves or their families. So tell us about this new research that you just launched this week, I believe, or last week, on repeat victimization. What are 2 or 3 of the key things you learned?
Sure. So last week, actually on March 4th, which I think was the day that you had our friends at Finra Foundation on your
Right.
last Cyber Threat Thursday, we released
Right.
research addressing the challenge of chronic fraud victimization. We commissioned this research last year along with Finra Foundation because we wanted to identify evidence-based ways to help repeat victims of financial frauds and their families. So our goal was to kind of generate new thinking on how to best support the individuals and families who are repeatedly targeted and victimized by financial scams and frauds. So what the study found was that chronic fraud victimization may be a consequence of chronic susceptibility due to certain situational factors that disrupt our judgment and derail our good intentions. So one of the most effective ways to reduce chronic fraud victimization may be to reduce chronic susceptibility, but that can often be challenging to identify and address. So there's some ways to manage other factors, such as triggers that elicit an emotional response and the ability to access funds, which may be more scalable ways to reduce fraud victimization rates, or to counteract the negative consequences associated with victimization. What the study also identified was the importance of fraud education, but it acknowledges that many victims or would-be victims do not consider themselves as such, and consequently, they may not seek out or absorb anti-fraud messaging. So, in conclusion, the study found that preventing chronic fraud victimization is a challenging task, but individualized support can help. So, partnering with community members like clergy and counselors, or other locations like hair salons could help meet that need. Even if a person has engaged with the fraud, intervention is possible, and in fact it's a critical way to mitigate chronic fraud victimization and impact. So I encourage everyone to read the full report, and we're so glad that we were able to do this work with Finra Foundation.
Yes, absolutely. So last question is, you have an award-winning podcast. Everyone has been listening to a lot of podcasts during the COVID-19 time in our lives, and The Perfect Scam is one of the best I've listened to. Tell me about a couple stories you've recently covered.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. And what's incredible is that we have over 80 episodes of The Perfect Scam. So I just wanted to highlight 3 of our most recent episodes, one of which is a 2-parter. So the most recent one is called A Cruel Con. It's about life insurance scams. So it's about a woman named Janet who 5 days after her husband's funeral received a call, and the woman on the line claimed to be from the state retirement system, calling about a $50,000 life insurance policy that belonged to Janet's husband. But there's an issue. A few late payments, she was told, meant that the system couldn't pay out the policy unless Janet came up with $4,450 to pay the overdue balance. So in that episode, the fraudsters instructed the victim to use gift cards as a payment for the policy. So I encourage folks to check that out. And that reminds me, our friends at the FTC have a great saying: gift cards are for gifts, not for payment. So I wanted to remind folks of that. And then another incredible episode is called Addicted to Love. It's a 2-part episode that focused on online romance scams. And in during it, you'll hear about Denise, who unwittingly ended up becoming a money mule for her love interest.
Mm-hmm.
And as folks know, money mule is the term for those who carry and transmit illicit money to disguise its origins. Yeah. You'll also hear about Christine, whose mother, was a giving, caring woman. But when her mom started online dating, she had a personality change. She's up all hours of the night texting with a man she never met. And so when her mom began giving her online boyfriend her hard-earned money, Christine really started worrying because, as it turns out, her mom was addicted to online relationships that were with multiple scam artists. So those are just a sample of our episodes, and you can find our podcast at aarp.org/theperfectscam.
Fantastic. Well, I feel so excited about listening to you. I know about your resources, but listening to you talk about them all over the past 20 minutes has really been invigorating. I'm thinking about where we could be using some of those more than we are right now. And then I want to also give a shout out to our team here and our partners at Google for helping us create scamspotter.org, which has also been a great website. It talks about the good news, the bad news scams, COVID scams, and it helps people by taking a quiz to figure out, is this really a scam? And it just takes them through the process of how they could think about it. So there's lots of great resources, and there's plenty of people who need them. So it's certainly a big open space here that there's a lot of work to be done. And we're just so thankful to be able to do it in partnership with AARP and Finra Foundation. So Liz, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And thank you to the whole team, Kathy and all at AARP, who do such important work and serve so many of the people in this country that need the help. So thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, Kristin. To you and Demetria and all of our friends at CSN, we appreciate your partnership and look forward to continuing to work together this year.
Absolutely. Plan on it, and many years to come. Absolutely. Thank you again for joining us on Cyber Threat Thursday. I'm Kristin Judge here with Liz Buser from AARP, and letting you all know you are not alone in this world of scams right now. You have fantastic resources. Make sure you take a look at the ones that are in the chat there that Demetria has been posting, and go share them with friends. That's the most important thing you can do, is don't just listen to the information yourself. Share it with the people in your life. If it comes from a trusted family member or friend, they're probably going to listen even better. So thank you for joining us today, and everybody stay safe.
Thank you.